This is a special presentation.
Wicked awesome.
There is an epidemic of mass murder being committed by a virtual army of unidentified assassins. They appear to be in a kind of trance. Others describe them as being
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of the Cudi Cast. I am joined with my host, Aryan Kumar. I am Damien Arsato. And today's topic is going to be... I'll let you say it.
About mental health and the perception of it in the media, especially in recent times.
Yes.
Because, I don't think we don't have to tell anybody, but Cudi's pretty important when it comes to the mental health discussion. And I think before we analyze his music, it's kind of important to see where we are right now, in part because of him.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is actually you kind of stole the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say something along those lines.
Great minds think
almost
alike.
Exactly. Yeah. But no, seriously, I do think that if we're going to just go into Kid Cudi's music, I feel like having more of a what's the word I use here? Give the audience an idea of how we kind of dissect things in general, just as an overall conversation here about mental health, I think would be a good precursor into getting into his music and just how we feel about mental health in general and giving kind of our opinions, like face first. That's the word I want to use. I think is a good way to introduce the audience to not only us, but our kind of way of thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I think we should start diving in. So, obviously, Kid Cudi has had a huge impact on the discussion of mental health, not only in, like, what's the word I want to use here? Not only in terms of media, but also in terms of, like, rap music. Yes. Would you not agree?
Well, of course I'd agree. It's pretty hard to deny that point.
Yeah, I think most people who you'll see are Kid Cudi fans, usually, especially if you like browse the subreddit or anything, or browse Twitter at all, is as Twitter is. um, I think that you'll notice a lot of them tend to talk about mental health issues often because that's what Kid Cudi focuses on in a lot of his music. I mean,
Yeah, and like even listening to interviews by a couple artists like Travis Scott and stuff, they talk about how Kid Cudi saved their life.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious just from even the first opening chords of Soundtrack to My Life, or excuse me, the first opening lyrics to it. He says, I got 99 problems and they all bitches. I obviously just the theme of that whole song and that and Day and Night being Day and Night being the much more popular song. Soundtrack to My Life being the opening to his first album that came out, I think is a very good precursor for the rest of his career and what he's going to talk about. I mean, of course, In My Dreams is technically the first song on there, but that's very much an intro track, like the nice soundtrack opening to a movie, Just looking at some of the lyrics, stuff like "Since my father died, I ain't been right since," kind of just lays it out all for the audience to see. It kind of lays out some of the reasons for his issues and some of the issues he has, such as oh, hold on, I need to look up the lyrics to this song really quick. Should have done this before we started.
Like dealing with his father's death at a very young age, especially to something as horrible as cancer.
Yeah,
kind of really makes many people think about the importance of having a core, strong family.
right. I mean, not only that, but kind of just spinning out his issues, like in the very first sort of track on his album. kind of gives like this precursor to his entire career. I'm kind of repeating what I said earlier, but I'm just looking at some of the lyrics here where he says, even in the chorus, I've got some issues that nobody can see, and all of these emotions are pouring out of me. It kind of gives you, the viewer, makes you feel like you're really going to look into the personal feelings of this man that you're listening to right now. And I think during that time period, and even in general, I think was a very big deal for somebody as an artist, especially a hip hop artist, is a very big deal because not a lot of people were willing to put their emotions and put themselves on the line.
Yeah, exactly. It's like sympathy versus empathy. He was very much empathizing. He was kind of like climbing down into the deep hole with us and kind of telling everybody that, hey, I've been here and I understand exactly what it's like.
And that wasn't something that a lot of people had in the media during that time period. There was obviously 808s and Heartbreaks, and obviously some other artists that had a lot of emotion put into their work. But breaking into the mainstream culture like that with something like Day and Night, where even, kind of touches on that feelings of depression, and kind of coping with it by drug use, I think was very important to have because it showed that people had real problems. It was real people with real problems right to your ears.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, obviously, we, we shouldn't we shouldn't go in circles here trying to discuss, all the impact that Kid Cudi has had on mental health and stuff, because I think most of the audience knows, what I'm saying about the whole impact that he's had, because that's kind of what the precursor to his entire career is that he's the guy that talks about mental health issues, and that's why people like him so much, I think. Um,
Yeah, and that impact particularly allowed or made it easier, or I mean, I don't really know the true story, but definitely him coming in helped people like Kanye, Kendrick, and many other artists be more open about what was going on in their head and laying it out for everyone to see and not being ashamed of
who they are.
going through anything.
Yeah. I mean, even just looking at like 2016, I mean, while the conversation about mental health really evolved since he first started and put out Man on the Moon 1, but even with, Passion, Pain, and Demon Slaying coming out around that time period when he went into, what was it? He went into, yes,
Rehab.
rehab for his issues and put out that long open letter on Facebook. It really showed that he was a person who very much still has real demons and real issues to this day. And that it shows that even when somebody has a lot of money and fame, they still have issues nonetheless, even if they don't show it outwardly.
Yeah, the mind's a scary monster.
Mhm, mhm. And of course, we shouldn't hop on his dick so fast. I mean, yes, we are a Kid Cudi podcast, but I think kind of, we shouldn't say like, oh, he's like the bastion for mental health issues. But he's definitely been a very large spokesperson for it. I think ever since he kind of started putting out his music and getting an audience. I think at least in the music world, he's definitely changed a lot of conception about it. I mean, many people will cite him as an influence, namely Travis Scott, like Lil Uzi Vert, Kanye. I mean, pretty much, uh,
Yeah.
and some other artists that I can't think of off the top of my head. But many people work with him, and many people cite him as an influence, especially during the current wave of music where it's like
The
emo
emo
rap.
rap that's
Mhm.
really taking storm.
Juice World. But I don't know. I think the theming of his music is so important to kind of opening up that bastion of mental health discussion, and kind of the theming of what it's like. Okay, so the kind of point that I'm trying to get at here is that, and we can start getting into, like the second half of what I'm trying to get at here, like, what I'm talking about. But
Yeah, yeah.
where mental health, when it's put into art forms, mental health is important when it's more like something that the character has rather than being something that the character is. Being a personification of your issues does not make you a fleshed out character. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
personifying somebody by their issues does not really make them a fleshed out character. I think that you have to have the character by themselves and give them some more, oh, what's the word I want to use here? Because I want to repeat character, but I don't want to repeat myself too much. By giving them more fluff and giving them more something to work with as a person, as a human being, because we're all human
Basically, more
beings,
depth.
obviously. Yes, more depth, just like all people are. Having those issues come in almost like as a backbone to why do they react like this? Why do they do this? Why do they feel this way? Makes them more fleshed out as a person or as a character than if they were just justifying their actions in the first place by having mental health. Rather, it's their what's the word I'm trying to get at here? Sorry if I'm twisting myself in tongues. Um, so kind of good to give an example as to what I'm saying here about letting mental health be like something like a backbone to your character rather than the character in general is like I've known some people in high school, and I'm sure many of you can as well, who just kind of walk around a lot and they're really depressed. And like they'll talk to anybody that they see that, like, oh, well, I've got depression, I've got these issues. And while it's good to be upfront about them, I feel like you really shouldn't kind of shove them first things first in the conversation. Like you should kind of have a little more personality to you, rather than being a walking
Right.
personification of sadness and melancholy.
Yeah, you just described me at 15. Yeah, I was that guy. I was that guy on campus.
Like what?
I was always a sad person basically. It was that like that's who I was. There was no other defining characteristics about me, and I think I kind of when someone pointed it out to me, I kind of started to grow out of it because I was like, I have other things, and I should probably put that front and center, and like let them find out about the rest later.
Yeah, no, when I was like 14 and 15, like I like I had some issues obviously, and I never really told anybody, like, oh, I'm depressed or whatever, but like I definitely really personified myself by all the shit I had been through and been like, like I've been through so much dark stuff and I'm so edgy. It's like, oh yeah, it's like one of those edgy anime characters, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like they have no real personality besides having a tragic backstory. It's like, okay there, buddy.
Yeah, yeah.
But what I'm trying to say here is that I think Cudi does really well with making that a backbone to his character. Like, for example, like obviously,
Yeah, because his albums also have more of those upbeat moments and some tracks about just partying and
yeah, like he
not directly linked to mental
he
health.
does really try
Basically,
to
he mixes
he
them.
really tries to sound like a badass sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like if you've
Like
listened to him,
especially like Indica, where it was pure rock star vibe.
yeah, where he's trying to sound like a rock star and stuff. But I feel like that whole conversation I just had about letting it be a backbone of you. And I'm sorry if this sounds really vague to somebody. What I'm trying to say though is that like somebody like Cuddy or somebody like, oh, I don't know, Kanye or something, where they have such a strong character, where they have other characteristics and other things to them, such as being like a nice guy, being caring about people, having all this other interesting personality stuff is really important to have because that's what most people relate to. Like they've got a personality, but at the same time, their personality may be shaped by mental health, but that doesn't have to be their entire character. And it's good to not let your mental health kind of define you, but let it be a part of you. Like make more of a character for yourself than just your mental health.
Yeah, let the mental health be a part of a one part of the bigger whole rather than being the whole.
Yes, like like I have I've had some issues with depression, but I think anybody who's ever talked to me could tell you that I've got a lot more character than just that. Like it's such like I wouldn't surprise me if people kind of forget that I have issues like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people forgot Cudi had issues like that until the Facebook open letter where he talked about how burdensome all of it was
Hmm.
and how he wants to.
Well, I don't know if I go that far. I do feel like it's
Yeah,
such an
yeah.
integral
People
part to
still
his
remembered,
character.
but it was kind of like I don't know. I felt a little more in the background
Yeah, it felt
over the
like he was
years, at least.
moving past it a little bit.
Yeah, although he did release "Speeding Bullet to Heaven," so I think that
Mm,
was
yeah.
probably an indicator that he still had some stuff to work out.
Hmm.
Not that it's a bad
You
album.
know what I'm saying here. I think the audience can kind of get at the point I'm kind of trying to get at. I think you kind of really
Yeah,
get to the point I'm
it's
trying to
really
get
hard to
at.
say it all in words. It's sort of just I don't know, it's just something
It's
you kinda have
yeah,
to know, and it's yeah, it's a there's a lot of nuance to it that's kinda you
difficult
yeah, we need to bring
to
you
explain,
need, like, a psychologist
but
to
to
break
kind of
everything down for you.
to give more nuance to what I'm the point I'm trying to get at here, I think we should really get into kind of the commercialization of like the second point I'm trying to get at here, or we're trying to get at, which is the
The sort
commercialization
of,
of mental
the
health
bad side of having it be so much more open than it used to be and
ingrained,
ingrained into society, yeah.
yeah, ingrained into culture.
That too.
I think that there's some really negative things that have happened because of it. While there's is really good things where people are much more open about discussing their issues and having therapy and help for it, I think that in the same way, people try to benefit off of it by using it as a commercial point. And my point in being, like for example, the 1-800 Logic song. Like as much as that song is probably done, and I'm sure that he's probably donated a little bit to charities and whatnot. I do feel like it was really kind of a cash grab.
Mhm.
Like when you hear a lot of songs nowadays, or even in the culture where it's like, like don't give up, like you can make this, fight the fight, stuff like that. I do really feel like nobody really it doesn't do much for anybody. To be told to keep fighting and stuff, I don't really feel like it does anything for anybody, you know?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. There's that's obviously part of it,
Like
but you need more
no,
it's
go
more
ahead.
that's more in a case of showing this difference of sympathy and empathy. Most people need empathy in their lives, but they only get sympathy.
Yes,
It's like
thank you.
saying, "Hey, you look really sad down there. Everything life must suck, huh?" And then it's like, "Hey, you want the sandwich or something?" Like it's like just completely disregarding the actual
Yeah.
solution, which would be to climb in with them.
I see you're feeling sad today. I just want you to know that you're a good person,
Who
stuff
can
like that.
relate?
Like you can make it through the fight, you know? And it's like I feel like a lot of people really want somebody to really understand the things that they're going through and to really feel like when people feel understood, I feel like they're much more receptive to getting
Yeah.
advice
Like
and getting out of their issues.
and like when Cudi on Reborn, when he says keep moving forward, that's an entirely different thing because he spent years empathizing with everybody, albums
Yeah,
upon
he's come
albums, and then he came out of rehab on top of all of that. So kind of it showed, but then to have someone like Logic kind of come in and drop the 1-800 song, where I think in the past, I'm not a huge Logic fan, so I can only remember one or two songs where he actually discussed more deeper ingrained mental health issues that he dealt with. But he never was this
he
beacon for
didn't
anybody. He was more of just kind of like, I want to rap and show everyone that I'm good. It was more so that was the point of his music over being someone
Mhm.
a helping hand.
Sending
Yeah.
a message, sending a message. And I feel like that's really a big issue with this is like people don't give themselves the depth necessary to make themselves the authority over something or give themselves the authority to discuss such a heavy topic as they do. And so when they discuss a topic like this, they don't have the prerequisites, or at least even if they do have the prerequisites, people don't think that they have the prerequisites to really discuss this, give this topic justice. And so I feel like that's a huge issue with a lot of this.
Yeah, and you can and if you have a cheer in your hook about talking about depression, then maybe don't make that song.
Yeah.
And I think there's also like many cases of the new with the emo trap wave. I don't have any specific artist
Oh, I
examples,
can
but
give
there
you
are many people that
specific.
are.
Okay, I'll give you some.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, go for it, go
I
for it.
don't care. Like, if we shit on people, too bad. Um, Juice World. Really, if you listen to any of his music, it's just breakup shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like like I do drugs. Well, you know what I mean. Like, I don't want to sound like one of those idiots. It's like, rap is crap. Music was better when John Lennon was beating his wife.
Jesus Christ.
But I do feel like a lot of
Oh
new artists
God.
tend to go into that emo trap where they're like this is I'm sad. My girlfriend left me. I'm gonna do drugs now to numb the pain. And they kind of build that character for themselves from this like sadness, like I'm trying to say here, like from this outward way rather than having an inward outward, if you know what I'm saying. Like try to they try to express this idea that they're like this speaker for this kind of sad breakup stuff, and they feel these sad feelings, but they don't have the character to make us care about that. You know what I'm saying? Like they have no character to them besides that.
Yeah, I think he's more so like most of the emo trap is more for like helping sad people come out of sadness rather than being a helping hand to people who need to climb out of depression or other things.
Yeah, it's more so just like kind
And
of
it's
melancholy
yeah,
music,
especially with the
which
lyrics where it's mostly focuses on women who won't go out with them rather than specifically talking about like actual life situations.
yeah, and it's kind of that pop sadness, if that's the word I want to use here. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like these
Yeah,
really
yeah.
like these
Yeah,
melancholy
pop in general has gotten very like de-energized
yeah, it's gotten
recently.
really sad stuff, you know? Like it's discussing a lot more sad topics, especially even if you listen to like the weekend and stuff. And I love the weekend for the record, but you know, like it's got that really like melancholy feeling to it lately, where it's more dark.
My dear melancholy.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying though. It's got like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
this really dark undertone to a lot of it, but it's like dark to the point where it's just like you know, like my girlfriend left me, she's cheating on me, or something like that rather than really
Yeah.
discussing like mental health issues in general, like discussing like
Which they
what it's
don't
like
like
to
they don't have
no,
to,
they don't
but
have to, but it's kind of that
yeah.
commercialization of kind of
Of like kind of I mean like 13 Reasons Why, kind of like glamorizing and polishing sadness and
yeah, I
presenting it like
fucking hate
it's
that
this thing.
series. You know what I'm saying? It's shit like that.
Oh,
It's shit
definitely.
like
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It's shit like that. Like, bro, like yes, people have depression and yes, they have suicidal thoughts, but you need to give the topic the weight that it deserves, you know? And I don't
Mhm.
think people
And I think they like that show like broke all of the requirements that you need to show depression in a TV show. Like they showed or I think to present suicide in a TV show. Like they actually showed how she did it and everything.
yeah.
It was
Yeah, yeah.
just missed the
Just miss
mark,
it.
missed the mark. And then Selena Gomez comes in with, "This is very important, and I'm so happy to be involved with this."
This is so important. I'm glad that it can. I'm glad that it can. Fuck. I'm glad that it can contribute to my paycheck. God. Also, another example, and we
Yeah, I
kind of.
think the fact that like an animated show like BoJack Horseman dealt with the issues much better is a real testament to what can be done when care is put into something.
People don't understand that depression isn't just having these sad feelings. It's more so these feelings, just consistent feelings overall. It's not this sort of feeling of anxiousness where you feel like the whole world's going down. It, you know, like in a moment, like a heated, what's the word I'm trying to get at here? You know, like that moment of crisis when you feel like everything's just going to shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, like a very action movie type feeling, if that's the word I'm trying to get at here. That's how 13 Reasons Why kind of dealt with it, you know, where like everything was going down and she had these feelings where she was just like, you know, like the
I
whole
mean, it
world's
was like
ruined.
so I mean, spoiler alert to anyone who cares, but up until she got raped, there wasn't really it was just really mostly just basic high school things up
Yeah.
until that point, and it felt kind of shoved in because it was like the writers were like, "Well, she doesn't really have a reason to kill herself, so let's just write this in as a plot point."
Spoiler alert, she kills herself.
Oh, yeah. It's like that's like a minute in, right? Or at least we know that she's dead within a minute.
yeah. I think that's the whole premise in general, anyways. But nonetheless, what I'm trying to get at here is that, oh my God, they don't give her even the character to kind of people. Okay, what I was getting at with the whole depression thing is like it's not really just sadness, like violent sadness, if that's the word I'm trying to get at here. It's more so just this empty, dull feeling for the rest of the day, where it's like, you know, like, oh, I want to kill myself because life isn't going to really work out for me. I'm only going through the motions because that's what I have to do. And nobody
Mhm.
really touches on, you know, like they like it rarely gets touched on, just kind of the boring stuff that goes on in a daily life of somebody with depression, you know, just staring in the room, sitting
Yeah,
at,
it is. It because yeah, if you made a real
oh
TV
my
show out
God.
of it, holy shit, would that be a
I
bore to
mean, no shit,
watch?
because it's TV
Because
and media. And I'm not going to pretend like, you know, like they don't
yeah, yeah,
represent it right because, you know, it's an entertainment business, but I don't.
Frankly, I
Fuck
wouldn't want to
no.
watch. I'd need some
Fuck
jump
no.
cuts.
Yeah, obviously.
I mean, I live with it every
Yeah,
day. Why
but at
would I
least
want?
like give a little credence to it. Like at least discuss that a little bit. Like
Like see
yeah, yeah,
BoJack
yeah, yeah.
Horseman to give a
Like all
better
the time I
example.
spend just fucking sitting and thinking about all the shit that went on, or sitting and thinking just stuck in my head. Like no, it's not touched upon like that. You know what I mean? About all the time that you spend like think about everything into your entire life and how you're afraid of the future and how things are going to turn out. Just kind of depression in general. Like suicidal thoughts and stuff. It's not even really is like the moment of climax where you're like, I've got the gun sitting on the table, I'm about to shoot myself. It's more so just having these thoughts that kind of enter your head on a daily basis and just kind of sitting there and you think about it constantly, not necessarily where you're making a
Yeah,
plan and everything, but where you think about like what would I do, if what would happen if I killed myself, like who would care, like what would my legacy be, etc., etc. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. Like it doesn't,
yeah,
we don't get the
mhm,
credence that deserves out of a lot of things that discuss mental health. It's more so just like things are going to turn out fine. You know, this is going to be a good day. We're going to have a good life. I promise you'll make it, guys. You'll get through that depression. But they don't spend the time talking about all the therapy that you have to spend, the medication that some people might take, all the difficulties that happen in a person's life with depression, and kind of learning how to cope with it and accepting that you have it in general.
yeah. And I think it's important to touch on that when we talk about all of this stuff. It's more so just our experiences with it. And I mean, the reason mental health is so hard to cure is because it's so different for everybody else. So what works for someone will not work for someone else, and that's part of the reason why it's so hard and it can't be as simple as some of these shows and media and everything tries to present it as. It's very complex. And I mean,
Yeah,
if
and
yeah, if
and the
like
worst
if
part
someone
is,
disagrees with whatever we're saying, it's a completely valid feeling because that's your experience.
yeah,
And
I think the hugest issue with kind of discussing it in some of the ways that they do with the positivity bullshit is that you can't cure it. You can't cure mental health issues. You can only cope with it. You know what I mean? And some days are worse than other days. Like you feel like you can't deal with it. And I feel like empathizing with it and making somebody really feel like that they can get through it because they have somebody there who's a strong support for them rather than somebody who's just going to, like give them a hug and be like, it'll all be okay, I promise. And that's good in some ways, but you really have to let the person think for themselves that everything's going to be okay. You don't just get to say it,
yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I'm saying? And expect them to feel that way in general. And I don't know. I mean, I don't want to repeat myself too much here, but it's just such shit. It's such
yeah.
shit, I don't know.
Luckily, it's better than it was a decade or so ago overall because there's more resources and stuff. But it's also you gotta pick really carefully
Yeah,
on
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, like because then because you have YouTubers out here promoting scam websites like BetterHelp, thinking that
Yeah, fuck that shit. And by the way, speaking of the 1-800 Logic song, you ever tried to call a suicide hotline? And for the record, no, I have not actually tried to call the suicide hotline for anybody who's thinking I have.
out of all
But
my friends that have called, they none of them have told me to call you in.
if you ask anybody who's actually tried to call them, first of all, they have a waiting list, a very long waiting list. And I don't think anybody who's sitting seriously thinking you're killing themselves is really going to appreciate a waiting list.
Yeah, you're
But
very important to us, but come back in 30
you gotta
minutes.
wait. You gotta wait first. Um, I mean, obviously, like, yes, it makes sense why there's a waiting list. I'm not going to pretend that, like, well, they should immediately answer because there's other people who's trying to call it. But
It's the point is that it's not like this be all end all solution that some people think it is.
yes, like, I hate when people are always like, if you have issues and seriously considering suicide, call the suicide
Yeah, and I think
hotline.
that's the problem with it being
Well,
the only thing that gets pushed so hard is that now it's like they're the only people that anyone bothers calling when we should probably have hundreds of hotlines. And I think we might, but it's just not being promoted as much.
not not even that. What I hate the most about like telling people to call the suicide hotline is that people feel like that's like an end all be all solution and they kind of push the issue to the background. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Right,
like,
yeah, yeah,
like,
it's like
I'm sorry that you feel that way. If you have issues, please call this. Rather than actually trying to be there for them, you just give them this bullshit thing to do instead.
yeah,
And rather than taking responsibility, well, not taking responsibility, but taking the initiative to go and help them yourself and actually make sure that they're okay, you just tell them to go do something else because you can't be bothered to handle it. You know what I mean? Because you can't be bothered to help.
right, like, I mean, no one has any obligation to directly be that strong support for anyone else, but it's kinda like it seems kind of fake when you just present a very simple solution to probably one of the most complex problems to face humanity.
Yeah. Because there's no cure for it. And it's like,
Yeah,
you
I
still
think
have
that's
to
what
live with
it
it
should
every
always be
day.
started off. The discussion should always start off by like that. It'll never be 100% cured, but
Yeah.
there's
And it's
ways to
like,
make it feel better and numb it more.
And it's like, I think kind of a little bit of a misconception to people who don't struggle with mental health is that people have suicidal thoughts, even if they really consider suicide, and they might call the suicide hotline and get talked out of it, or they don't end up doing it. That doesn't mean that they're not going to think about it another time or try it. Even somebody who survives a suicide attempt, they might still try to do it at a future time, you know?
Yeah, you need a consistent, strong support, and
Yes.
it's
Or at least
just
a
isn't it.
feeling of
That's why
contentness.
I think therapy overall is a better way to go.
Yeah.
And even
I
that,
mean,
but
of
even
course,
then,
look.
it's like you have to find the right person. Sometimes it might not work, and
Hmm.
it's very tough. It's very tough. But
Yeah. And especially the hugest thing about mental health issues, especially like depression, is sometimes like other there's so many factors into it, but also kind of just where you're in life. You know what I mean?
oh,
Like,
definitely,
if
yeah.
you really want to get over some mental health issues, I feel like definitely feeling more secure in your life and having that kind of change in your life is really important to making you feel better as a person. And those don't happen immediately; those take years and a long time.
Yeah.
It's not just a change, like, to have a change in a way of thought, you have to have a lot of experience and a lot of things happen before you can really have a big change like that occur. Just to kind of speed along things,
Mm.
but I mean, I do want to talk about just like kind of the that anxiety hoodie we discussed a while ago because I
Yeah,
feel like this
these
kind of
are
a good
I
point.
think overall, a lot of these examples that we're using are fairly old because nothing recent has really swept up a storm like
Hmm.
the anxiety hoodie that went viral a couple months
Or
ago, the
the or
1-800
the 13
song.
reasons
Yeah,
why.
nothing recent's been as viral, which I think is a good thing because it feels like maybe
Yeah, that is kind
hopefully
of a
people
good
are
thing.
taking more time and, thinking about the effects
What
that they
they're
may be
going to
having.
say.
So, yeah, basically the anxiety hoodie, girl sells a hoodie, and it's just the definition of anxiety on the back of the shirt of the jacket. I think she gives, like, a couple 30-40% to mental health charities, but pockets the rest, so keeps the majority of the profits, which, I mean, like, if people I don't know,
Hmm.
if people buy it, I'm not gonna really, like, walk up to them
I
people and be like, "You're a
understand, but
horrible person," but it does come off as scummy when you know exactly what's happening because it's not news that this is a massive issue. Anxiety, depression, all that is it's not news that it's such a massive issue. People know that a lot of people deal with it, and they know that that's like a market that they can group.
you want to hear a controversial opinion?
Yeah, go for it.
Be prepared for this. Be prepared for this. Here, I'll do a drum roll. I support mental health issues. You want to hear this really outrageous take? Guys, I know people deal with depression and anxiety. Whoa! Whoa, dude, are you really just coming in here with flaming hot takes like that? Like, it's like, yes, fucking, dude, everybody and their fucking mother is always like, like depression and anxiety is a real issue in America right now. And, everybody always wants to say that it's a huge issue all the fucking time. And then, try and show support by showing awareness, mental health awareness. Like,
Yeah,
you can get as
which
much awareness as you like, kind of like a pervert showing his dick off in the fucking
Jesus.
park. Just because you're showing it off doesn't mean you're going to get anything out of it. Like, yes, they get some enjoyment out of it, just the same as people get a little bit of enjoyment out of mental health awareness. But you're still not going to get sex by just showing your dick off in a public park, the same way that people aren't going to get magically cured just because you're showing awareness to mental health issues. That's probably one of the weirdest.
Weirdest analogies, yeah, definitely.
Yes, but it works.
It's very true. I mean, I guess the difference here is that showing your dick off in the park will get you arrested.
Yeah. Um, might get you on a couple lists. Um, yeah,
You're gonna have to move to a
but
different neighborhood.
you
You,
tell me about it.
every time you meet a new person, you have to have a conversation about how you're registered.
Registered for the draft, is that the same thing? Kind of. But but no, the kind of point also I kind of want to say about this anxiety hoodie is like just having the definition on a sweatshirt does jack shit for anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, who's gonna see
I
that
mean,
in
except
public
for
and
the
be like,
person selling it.
yeah, like who's gonna be like see that shit in public and be like, whoa, they understand what anxiety issues are like. Like,
Yeah, if you know the
I feel
definition,
so
you understand
supported.
everything.
Whoa.
That's like
You know what I'm saying though? It's like it doesn't add anything. Like it doesn't make me think that you're some bastion for mental health discussion. It just
I,
makes me think that you're a blowhard.
it actually makes me think that you know nothing about it. Because if
Yes.
you knew about it, you wouldn't be wearing such a thing.
Yes, like do you think people with mental health issues want to always think about that they have mental health
Yeah,
issues?
yeah. Because I have a T-shirt that just says clinical depression on it. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Like it's like starting it's like giving somebody a title before their name. It's like, Skyrim where it's like the fucking blacksmith in town just has the name blacksmith. It's like characterizing a person by their mental health issues certainly does not help them make them think that their mental health issues are not the end of the world for them.
Yeah,
By prefacing a conversation with being
definitely.
like, they have depression and anxiety, and it's like, yeah, okay, but what's the rest of that character like? What are they actually
No,
like? You know what I'm
that's
saying?
it. That's it.
That's it. That's all they got. It's like, okay, bro, what are you really doing to help me out here? It's kind of like giving people a title before their name, and it's like, like, oh, I can't think I'm trying to think of an example. It's like,
That's like like Prince Harry. It'd be like Depression Steve or some shit.
Colonel, I keep trying to get out of bed, but the but the clinical depression keeps finding me back to it. You know what I'm saying, though? It's like,
Yeah.
okay. And I hate when people try to just fucking characterize people by their issues. And like I say that as I'm making a Kid Cudi issue or a Kid Cudi podcast, and it's like mental health is a huge part of
And
music,
yeah,
but there's so much more to Kid Cudi than just his depression that I feel like kind of
which we'll
underrated.
definitely be getting into in future episodes.
Yeah. I do.
And that's always important to remember is that that's just a part of him, and he's a lot more
Yeah,
than just that.
exactly. And also, just kind of to wrap up a brief point that I wanted to make earlier with the whole raising awareness thing, it's that raising awareness for an issue does absolutely nothing if it doesn't actually contribute to solving the problem. Like donating to mental health funds, and I'm not saying like donating to a cause is going to help shit, because just look at something like the breast cancer funds or whatever they call it,
Yeah, yeah.
well, I'm trying to think of some of these really shitty organizations where all they do is just take your money and then donate jack shit to actually helping the issue, because they get so much money out of donations that, I mean, this is a really hot take for some, but like a lot of these organizations that take donations, they don't really do much with the donations. They just kind of do it as a care, to make people think that they're a good organization. When realistically, most of that money that you're donating goes in the pockets of these huge corporation owners
Yeah, or it goes off to pay
that
off the ads
that
that they had
host
to take
these
out.
donations. Yep, all kinds of shit like that.
Yeah,
And
like
so
so
I
definitely
feel like
because
if you
I mean, just always look into what you're donating towards.
yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. But anyways, my point being that if you really want to actually make a change about mental health issues, especially being that being having mental health issues isn't really as much as a like isn't as big of a stigma as it once was. I think that if you really want to actually help, I think that you'd actually go and like petition or try to make some changes to get people like better healthcare for mental health issues, getting them more available therapy, more available medication if they need the medication, and stuff like that, and just being more there for them. Like if you actually care about
Yeah,
mental health
I
issues,
think
you're
something
going to do
is
something that's going to change the situation for somebody who doesn't make their situation of living easier.
even something as simple as just sitting down and talking to someone and letting them and just trying to like empathize with them and try to understand where they are. even something as small as that is much more helpful than selling anxiety hoodies.
Yeah, no shit.
And once again, like no one has to do this. This isn't like, oh, if you're not doing this, you're a bad person. It's just if you're the type of person who sells an anxiety hoodie, you
If you're the type
probably
of person
should do
who's
that
always like, I support
tenfold.
people with mental health issues, or I support this and this, I support this and that. Like, if all you're doing is saying that you're supporting it, you ain't doing shit. Like, try to show something through your character rather than by your words. Yeah.
You're just sucking yourself off.
Oh my god, dude, people are so fucking self
Yeah.
masturbatory.
Practice what you preach,
Yes,
basically,
yes,
is the message.
yes.
Pretty simple. Been repeated over and over
But
again,
hard to
just
understand for some people.
stating it again. Yeah.
Mm,
I think most of the people who listen to us understand that.
yeah,
And most people who listen to Kid Cudi get it.
yeah. I think that's the reason why most people listen to Kid Cudi, because he gets it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we had a
So
pretty good conversation here. I think this is actually
yeah,
so okay. So I guess I'll say this right now. We actually had a little
this is
discussion.
the second.
This is the second take of this
Take
episode,
two.
basically. Like we had another one, but we didn't make an outline for it. I finally made an outline.
Believe it or not, it was even more rambly than this one.
Oh well, I think we were actually kind of
It was This was
we were
definitely
actually
more
pretty
on
tight on
topic.
this one.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it was really badly
it was
like it was
more.
kind of
I
bad.
guess what I meant is more. This was more like a stream of consciousness. The other one was rambly.
Yeah, and so it's kind of just rambling, trying to find a point because I had an idea, but I didn't quite to it. But I feel like we really did well. We kind of did this topic justice, especially with some of the like, like I think I did really well with this, or we did really well with this, and I feel content with this episode as opposed to the last one. Um,
Yeah,
but I think that we're ready to kind of move forward.
and go on to Kid Cudi himself more.
Yeah, and kind of examine his music,
This was sort of
and
just
of course,
to give like our opinions on where mental health is at right now, the conditions of right now, and just this is our perspective on everything, and
prefacing
it'll
things.
better help show exactly why we think certain ways about some of his songs, some of his lyrics,
Yeah,
some of his
and kind of
albums, all that
introduce
stuff.
introduce the audience to us too.
Yeah, basically, it's like it's introduction
Mhm.
extended, but more
Mhm.
focused on something.
Yes, precisely. So what we're gonna do for the formatting, and it's no secret that we're kind of ripping off Watching the Throne podcast. Shout out them, um, which they retweeted the first episode link. So I actually hope that somebody listens to this, and we're going to try to get the first episode on podcasts, on Apple Music podcasts. Of course, by
Yeah,
the time this is actually out,
hopefully
who knows if it'll be on there?
2 days, maybe. I'm hoping.
Yeah,
Well, we're pretty new to this, so just bear with us.
yeah, exactly. We're going to grow with us, but what we're going to do is we're going to do we're going to go through the albums. Like, we're going to do them all at once, basically. So, like, we're going to go over the first track of Man on the Moon 1, and then the next episode after that is track 1 of Man on the Moon 2. And so we're going to go on and go forth and get through some albums faster than others, but we're going to we're going to let the audience kind of go through the albums that they want to listen to track by track. You know what I'm saying? Or at least,
Yeah.
because it's going to kind of save some monotony, because rather than discussing the same album every week and the same, not really getting too far and discussing the context and everything, if we take it in this approach, I feel like we'll be able to give more exposition to albums and stuff in at the time periods, rather than waiting like many many months and a long time until we finally get to like Passion Painted Demons Land or Kids See Ghosts. So we'll cover
Exactly.
a lot more ground this way than we will going through it track by track, album by album. And so I think that we're really kind of getting somewhere. I do feel that we're going to have a lot more of an audience now, and we'll get a lot more done once we get into that. Oh, one more thing that I forgot to mention at the very beginning of this episode. So we did originally have a third host, and that third host was actually on the episode that we scrapped that was like over this topic. We may put that out someday, just not anytime soon at all, because I feel like we got to actually get a fan base before we can put out shit like that. But he decided that me and Aryan worked a little better, and that third wheeling kind of as a co-host wasn't quite what he wanted to do. And so that's completely okay with us. and so we'll
Yeah.
miss him, but he's not going anywhere. Maybe we'll have him on as a guest one of
He
these days,
fucking
though.
he fucking died.
Yeah, he fucking died. But no, we might have him as a co-host one of these days, so no worries. But shout out, John. We love you,
James.
James. Wow,
Jesus, you
that's
already forgot
bad.
his name.
That's bad.
It's been like what, 4 hours, and you forgot his name
Hey,
already?
hey, they both start with J. But nonetheless, so it's going to be just me and Arian. I'm Arisato for the record, or Ari. Damien Arisato full name, but I think most people will just call me Ari or Arisato. I'm Arisato. My Twitter is D Arisato. Okay, let me spell this out. DARISATO on Twitter. My Instagram is the same. Wait, no, my bad. My Twitter handle is DARISATO 33. That's my Twitter handle. My Instagram is the same, but without the 33. Arian, if you'd like to plug yours.
Yeah. It's Sanskrit Aryan on both IG and Twitter. Sanskrit spelled how it's normally spelled. Aryan is Aryan. No connection to anyone else in history.
Wait, no, I thought you got a new Twitter because.
Oh no, it got reinstated.
Oh, really? Okay, never mind
Jack
then.
can't keep me
I
out.
gotta edit that in the
I
Twitter
did that. Don't
bio.
worry.
Okay.
We'll have to cut this part out.
No, we can keep it. I think it gives a little
Alright.
bit of character. And also, did you take out what?
Oh yeah, I'm going to. Don't. Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyways, our social media is Cast Cudi on Twitter and CudiCast on Instagram. And look for us on Spotify. We're now on Spotify, and we'll also post updates on our Twitter about making it onto Apple Podcasts and anything else that we so need as news.
Yeah, Spotify and YouTube. Just look up CudiCast and you'll find
Yep.
it.
Hopefully. I mean, well, I know you can find us on Spotify really easily. YouTube,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But anyways, look for us. I hope we impress you guys. And is there anything else you'd like to say?
Oh no, that's all, folks.
Okay. Goodbye.